All right, next we're going to get to know the workspace, but first I want to do a couple of things. If you're completing this playlist as part of a course and you need to prove to your instructor that you did this, then I'm going to suggest that you change the name of the title of this workbook up here to something like your name. We'll call this Tableau Getting Started or something like that, so that you can prove that this is you that actually followed along with this. Also, I want to talk about this connection here. The connection live means that it is constantly pulling from the data source that you previously connected to. Extract means that it's going to create a copy of that data and store it along with this workbook. Now, if you do live, then if we were to click save now, and I'm going to go up to File, Save. I know you probably can't quite see that, but I'm clicking save here, and I'm going to call this my name getting started or something like that. You put in your name. Then it's only going to save this Tableau file, and it's going to need this workbook or this file that you connected to located in the same place all the time in order for it to show the stuff that we're going to create. So clicking extract is a nice way to pull out a copy of that data and bundle it along with the workbook so that you don't have to constantly have the Excel files separately. That's very helpful, so you don't have to keep them together. Extract is also useful if you're connecting to a live data source on a server somewhere like one of these. It'll copy the data you need into your local workbook. However, keep in mind, those could be massive data sources. And so if you extract and save that file, it could become a gigantic file. This data source that we're using is pretty small, so it's not a big deal. But I'm going to go ahead and extract. By the way, that'll also make it faster if you are connected to a big data source. An extraction, when it makes a copy, it's much quicker to run off of your local machine than to constantly pull it from a server somewhere. So, extracted, put your name in the file, click on Sheet 1. So, by the way, since I'm doing an extract, it wants to create a version of the data source. I'm just going to click Save. We should be good to go. It'll do that. There we go. This is my workspace area now. So kind of like a worksheet in Excel, it's a place where I can come and do stuff. I can create visualizations. Over here, you see the field names organized by the tables that we just connected to. Orders, people, and returns. And you can see the same field names. Now they're sorted, I think, alphabetically here. And you still get their data types over here on the left. Again, this is just a row view of these field names that are across the top here. All right, so here on sheet 1, in addition, it divided them up. Besides making them alphabetical, it divided them between what Tableau likes to refer to as dimensions and measures. So this little line right here in between subcategory and discount, that highlights the difference. These are all dimensions or categorical fields, I'm going to call them, non-numeric fields. And notice that includes ID fields, even if the ID is numeric. And then down here, they call these measures, or just numeric fields is what I'd refer to them as. This has implications for how we create our diagrams out here. So notice that's divided up by each table separately. So the people table has dimensions and measures, returns has dimensions and measures. Down here, these are things we can create that aren't necessarily created. So we can create new measure names here and others. This is the data pane, showing us what data we have access to. This is the analytics pane. Now we're not able to use any of these yet because we haven't put any data out here into the middle. All right. By the way, if you have experience with Excel pivot tables and pivot charts, that is a good analogy for what we're using Tableau for right here. So in Excel, you can create a pivot table where we add fields to columns and rows, and then a table or a chart is displayed that aggregates or summarizes the data across a column and a row. So for example, if I want to know total sales by country or region, then I can select these and put them up here on the columns and rows. Dimensions, or these categorical fields I prefer to call them, they control what level you aggregate by. So for example, I can, if I were to say, give me total profit by, let's say, country, then that's a higher level of abstraction or aggregation than if I did total sales by state or by city, which would be even lowest, or actually even by customer, which would be the very lowest. So dimensions control those, and sometimes it's useful in Tableau to indicate that some dimensions have relationships to other dimensions. So for example, we call this a hierarchy in Tableau. So for example, Tableau doesn't know necessarily, where's category? Here it is. It doesn't know that subcategory has a relationship with category. For example, if I come back here to the data source, I can say, let's find our category, subcategories. Right here. It doesn't know that a chair is a type of furniture and that bookcase is a type of furniture, but that labels is not part of furniture, it's part of office supplies. Tableau doesn't necessarily understand that connection, but we can tell it that by coming in here and creating a connection. So I can do that by saying, for example, let's go to category, and I'm going to go down here to hierarchy, and I'm going to create a hierarchy which is going to put category on top. All right, and I'm going to call this, I think Tableau calls it a product hierarchy, because what we're going to do is create something that goes from category down to subcategory down to the individual products within that subcategory. So this is just an overall name to this category, which is just a relationship among dimensions, an overall name to it. So I'm going to call it product, and it automatically put category in there for me. I can now just click and drag the rest. Or I can come down here and I can add it to an existing hierarchy. Like I can add this, now product hierarchy exists. Notice it goes in there, and I can even change what order they go in. But I want category on top, and so it understands that subcategory is within that. Then within each subcategory there are products. We'll put product name in there since I don't really want to use ID. There we go. So now we've got a hierarchy, and it knows when I use this that each of these are related to the others. I'll show you the implications of that in a second. While we're at it, let's go ahead and create another one of these. Let's let it know that city, state, region, those all go together as well. And we can do this. Let's take the region here and let's drop it. We're just going to drag and drop onto country. And it says, what do you want to call this? I mean, that works, the name that it gave it, but let's just call this overall location hierarchy. And then we can add things like state. That would go within region. And then what else do we have? City. That would go here underneath state. So now it knows that country is a series of regions. Regions are a series of states, and states are a series of cities, just like our hierarchy below here. So that's pretty useful. Oh, and then also I missed one here, postal code. A city can have multiple postal codes within it, so let's go ahead and add that one too. All right, let's do a couple more things to clean up this data here to make it easier to use. We have a bunch of stuff that we're not going to use. All these IDs, we call these are primary keys in the table that they were in. A primary key is used to uniquely identify every record, but it doesn't do anything for us really when it comes to creating visualizations, modeling, predicting, or data science in general. So we're just going to get rid of them. And we can do that by hiding them right here. So it doesn't delete them from the data source. Notice we can come back here and technically they'll still exist, but it'll actually hide them over here too. But we're just going to go through and get rid of each of those. Hide row ID, and then down here, order ID, we can get rid of that one. Okay, not bad. Finally, since we went through the trouble of creating these connections between orders and people and returns, we can actually assume that all of these are part of one big table now, because it's joined the data sources together. So Tableau knows that, again, orders that were marked as returned, that this order ID will connect with the order ID that was in order. So in other words, we can get rid of this table structure. We don't have to keep track of which table each of these came from anymore. So we can do that right here by grouping by folders. So now all we have is a set of dimensions and then a set of measures. And again, we don't care which table they belong to. Next, what we have is a series of what they call pages, filters, marks, and then rows and columns, places where we can click and drag all of these to create our visualizations. And by the way, they refer to each of these little boxes here as cards. So this is the pages card, filters card, marks card, columns card, rows card, show me card, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then, of course, you've got your navigation and stuff up here. Some common ones right here. This is our back button and our forward button to undo and redo. We use those a lot. The rest of these we're going to use as we go along. But finally, let's just stop here because this is a good introduction to our workspace. And the next video we'll start making stuff.